This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, let's put a bow on WrestleMania 17. I mean, I know your answer. Thumbs way up.
Yep.
Where would you rank this, though, in terms of your all-time favorite WrestleManias that you were a part of?
Well, memorably, from the memorable standpoint, Conrad, for how it affected our company that we talked about. You know, we booked ourselves into a corner that was hard to navigate out of. I still would, and it's so important how all these things came about. The TLC match set a precedent. It created a new match. It created a new pay-per-view. Angle and Benoit, I love that match. I thought it was great. But the key thing about this show was the turn for Steve and how it affected the rest of the roster. And I think it served to be a little bit confusing. Now, why is it again I'm supposed to not like Austin?
Right.
Why is it he's a bad guy now?
Right.
I wasn't ready for that type deal, as the fan would say. And I think most of them felt that way. But it still would always be in my top three, maybe number one. I really enjoyed working with Heyman. Heyman had one of his better nights, quite frankly. And I thought we meshed well there. And of course, Heyman was the perfect guy to have out there because he could sing the praises of the new heel Austin. And that helped Steve's case without a doubt. So I'd say it was in the top three of my all-time pay-per-views, and maybe number one. I'd be hard-pressed as I sit here right now in lovely Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to tell you that I called one that I like better, and that it was one of those deals for me. It was before we started splitting up the announce teams. I had, you know, I didn't share the two announce team thing, which I always thought was in shits. And egocentrically, it's easy to say, well, JR just wanted to call the whole show. He did. I did want to call the whole show. And when you call a match, you sit out, you call a match, you sit out, you lose rhythm, you lose timing, you lose momentum, more importantly. So it was I liked it for that matter that Heyman and I called the whole show. But I really enjoyed the pay-per-view for the historic effect that it had on the long-term WWE. We had just outbooked ourselves, and we unbooked the two top baby faces that arguably the company had ever had, and maybe even to this very date, nobody's there now that's even coming close to what Austin and Rock meant to that company, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any argument there. And I don't think there's any argument that we're having fun on grilling JR. Jim, we didn't talk about this off the air, but this is our 100th episode together. So congratulations, buddy. We made it to 100 episodes.
What a relationship. We're like the Siegfried and Roy of podcasters.
Silva's our tiger, right?
Yeah.
Silva's our tiger.
Yeah. Well, Conrad, that's all been a pleasure. And I, as we were talking, I'll mention it one more time out of my massive ego needing stroked. This week before we went on the air, we started recording. I saw our podcast was number one.
Yep.
And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that our audience sticks with us and they try us every week. Some shows are going to be better than others, but they're always going to have great effort. We think we bring some informative information forward, different perspectives sometimes. This show is more cerebral, not as comedy oriented as we have been in the past. It all depends on the topic. But I'm very proud of that 100th show, and I'm proud of the fact that people are watching and listening. So, but working with you has been a pleasure, and I hope we have 100 more.
Oh, I'm sure we will, but our next one is going to be a special one. We're covering Mankind's 1996 and 1997. He debuted that character, he being Mick Foley, pronouns pal, on April 1st, 1996. It was the day after WrestleMania. And let's just think about what an incredible character Mankind was. He has this crazy mask and crazy gear, and he's missing patches of hair, and he's pulling out his own hair, and his finisher is he sticks his fingers down somebody's mouth. And He has an entrance song and an exit song. It was just a phenomenal presentation. And of course, we would see him main event a pay-per-view later that year against Shawn Michaels in Philadelphia. But come 97, boy, his character really takes a turn. We see Cactus Jack, we see Dude Love, we see the Three Faces of Foley, we see the big sit-down interview series with you, and you got Goozled. There's a lot of great stuff that we're going to talk about next week and pay homage to one of the all-time greats, Mick Foley. And believe it or not, Jim, I have saved Cactus Jack or Mick Foley as a topic across all my podcasts. This will be one of the first times we've done a deep dive on him as a performer because I wanted to do it right. And I felt like you were probably the right guy to do it with. I'm pumped about next week.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Conrad. Well, Mick was a special case for me. He was one of the first guys, if not the first guy, that I really had to lobby and sell to Vince. And the reason for that was that Mick had been brought in just as a TV enhancement guy getting a tryout. And he'd had like 2 or 3 tryouts in WWF at that point in time, 2 or 3. It was more than one. And he didn't turn heads. I'll put it this way. He didn't turn the right head.
Right.
And so I think Vince kind of acquiesced to me being new in my role that he didn't want to take the air out of my sails, where I would lose my edge to find talents and see talents that maybe somebody else had not seen as far as potential. But Mick never, ever disappointed me or anybody else in WWE. We found a kind of a Rembrandt, except he just operated on a different kind of canvas. He was just amazing. And sometimes Mick was his own worst enemy. We'll talk about that because he cared too much sometimes. But he's just an amazingly gifted performer. And, he's just every honor, accolade that he's gotten, he's earned. He didn't have the best body. He didn't have the best look. He was a great psychologist. Dr. Britt Baker could probably give him an attaboy for that her mandible claw, and that she used a version of what Mick used. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, yeah.
So, classic guy. And as Buddy Rogers once said, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, talking about himself. And it couldn't happen to a nicer guy with Mick, just a sweetheart of a person. And so hope he'll listen next week. I got a kick out of him on TV. He had heard about, it's funny how the WWE loyalties always linger. He said, I just heard about this match on Wednesday night with Dr. Baker and Thunder Rosa. Where do I find it? Oh, Mick, come on. Bullshit. Where do I find it? On a planet far, far away. In the land of dirt and innuendo, you'll find it. It's on TNT every Wednesday night, buddy. You know that. But he might get booked. He's looking to not kill a WrestleMania booking. Well, Foley's promoting the goddamn AEW. He's not going to be at WrestleMania. He's not going to be at my WrestleMania. So, at any event, it's going to be fun to talk about. So many great memories. Him writing his books, or the first book, which he wrote on a longhand on a pad, a notebook. Amazing. That was one of my first things. I go to TV. Mick, let me see your transcript. Here it is, handwritten in cursive. And he would share with me. So I think I was probably the first person in the wrestling business outside his family, I'm assuming,
right,
that saw that manuscript as it was being developed. So pretty damn good. I'm just surprised that somebody hasn't made a movie on his life somehow.
It's coming eventually.
It's got to, right? So it's how it worked, and it was really a fun deal. So a lot of big things coming up for all of us on the Ad Free Network. And folks, if you haven't gotten it, I sure encourage you to get it. I watched the second part of the Jimmy Crockett interview, which I loved.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. You did a great job. It's just amazing that he had such little awareness of how big a contributor to our profession that he was.
Totally agree.
You know, he deserved an attaboy more than once. So, but I thought he was extremely honest and answered a lot of questions. And I love the fact, you know, he had to go to do all over again. There's things he would have changed. But hell, we can all say that about our lives to some degree.
Sure.
You know, things would change. So a lot of good things going on in wrestling. I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be a part of the show today.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.